The courtroom smelled of old wood, worn leather, and betrayal. I sat in silence, hands folded on my lap, while he smirked like a man who had already won. The laughter he let out while signing the divorce papers wasn't just cruel, it was deliberate. A final slap to the face after a year of manipulation, humiliation, and emotional erosion. But that smirk didn't last. Because when the judge cleared his throat and read out my bank balance aloud, the whole room went silent. Including him. They say revenge is best served cold. I didn't plan revenge, though. I planned survival. I planned silence. And in my silence, I grew strong. 5 years ago, I was just a village girl with calloused hands and small dreams. My name is Doreen. Born and raised in a remote part of Kenya, I grew up knowing how to cook over firewood, carry water on my head for kilometers, then smile through scarcity. My parents, farmers, didn't have much, but they taught me dignity, honesty, and hard work. Then one Sunday afternoon, at a church wedding, I met Victor. Victor wasn't from the village. He had returned from Nairobi, wearing a crisp white shirt and speaking fluent English. He stood tall, full of ambition and jokes, flashing the kind of smile that could melt stone. He was visiting his aunt, our village seamstress, and from the moment he laid eyes on me, he didn't stop coming around. I was 23 then. He told me I was beautiful, different, that I didn't belong in the village. He said I deserved more city lights, perfume, than polished nails. I laughed it off at first, but he persisted, coming with gifts, body lotion, second-hand handbags, and even a phone. My parents warned me, especially my mother. Men who move fast are hiding something, she'd whisper. But I was already in love, or what I thought was love. 2 months later, I was married and living in a small one-bedroom apartment in Nairobi's outskirts. At first, it was bliss. Victor worked as a junior clerk at a transport company, and I stayed home. We'd laugh over cheap wine and argue over which soap opera to watch. He told me not to worry about finding work, that I should relax and enjoy life. I believed him. Until the shouting began. It started with small things. If the rice was overcooked. If his shirt wasn't ironed right. Then the accusations came. He said I was lazy. That I was becoming too fat. That I was ungrateful. I told myself he was stressed. After all, Nairobi wasn't easy. But his words soon turned to bruises. He slapped me once, then apologized with roses the next day. That's when the cycle began. I tried to leave. Twice. The first time, I packed my bag and went to the bus stop, but I stood there for hours, crying and confused. The second time, I called my mother, but she told me to endure like a good wife. So, I stayed. In the 3rd year of our marriage, something unexpected happened. Victor lost his job. At first, he pretended everything was fine. He still dressed up and left the house every morning. But soon, the cracks showed. He borrowed money, lied to neighbors, and once even stole my phone to sell it. I knew I had to do something. So, one night while he was out drinking, I took the laptop he had hidden under the bed, his last valuable possession, and used it to teach myself basic coding from a neighbor's hotspot. I didn't sleep that night. Or many nights after. Within 6 months, I landed small freelance jobs, managing social media for small boutiques, designing simple websites. I did it all secretly, hiding my work on flash drives and deleting my history. I used part of the money to pay off our debts quietly and the rest to save. When I finally told him, expecting a flicker of pride, he laughed in my face. So now you're a man, eh? Bringing home money like you own this house. That night, he beat me so badly I couldn't open my right eye for 2 days. I told myself, never again. The following week, I moved the remainder of my savings to a new account, quietly registered my own business, and applied for a grant offered by a Pan-African tech incubator for women. I didn't think I'd get it. But I did. They gave me capital, mentorship, and even a small office space. I grew, personally and professionally. I became known in small tech circles, especially for helping local women run businesses get online. I changed my wardrobe. I walked with my head high. But at home, I still cooked his meals, cleaned his shoes, and endured his insults. Why? Because I was preparing to live properly. The final blow came a year later. He brought a woman to our house, unashamed, while I was working late. I found them laughing in the kitchen, drunk and half-dressed. When I screamed, he shoved me against the door and told me, "You're lucky I even married you." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just walked to the bedroom, packed my things, and left. I moved into my office for a while, sleeping on the small couch and bathing in the staff toilet. When I told my story to the incubator director, a fierce woman named Mama Tilda, she connected me with a lawyer. It was Mama Tilda who encouraged me to seek legal justice. Not just walk away, but reclaim my dignity through the law. I resisted at first. Then I realized I deserved more. Victor was arrogant during the court proceedings. He showed up late. He made sarcastic remarks. He joked with his lawyer, pretending to yawn during testimonies. The day we finalized the divorce, he signed the papers with a chuckle, tossed the pen on the table, and whispered, "Now go beg someone else." But the judge wasn't done. He adjusted his glasses and tapped the microphone before reading aloud, "As per the bank statements and business registrations submitted to this court, it is hereby noted that the respondent, Mrs. Doreen Kamau, currently owns and manages assets valued at 38 million Kenyan shillings." The room shifted. Victor's smirk evaporated. His mouth hung slightly open. He looked at me, for the first time in years, not with contempt, but disbelief. And given the respondent's documented contributions and abuse endured, this court awards her full custody of shared property and denies any claim by the petitioner, Mr. Victor Kamau, to business earnings or assets. I didn't speak. I simply stood, picked up my bag, and walked past him, my heels echoing against the courtroom floor. The courtroom had been my battlefield, and I had walked away victorious, but war doesn't end when the papers are signed. Life after divorce, even one where you win, isn't as neat as the judgment sounds. After the hearing, my phone blew up with calls and messages. Relatives who had once advised me to endure were now praising me. "You were wise," my mother said, almost whispering, "but why didn't you tell us how far you had come?" I smiled. Because they wouldn't have understood. Because growth is often quiet. Because success, especially for women like me, is best built in silence and revealed in thunder. Victor tried reaching out a week later. First, a missed call. Then a message, "Doreen, let's talk." I didn't mean everything I said. Then another, "You can't just take everything we built." I didn't respond. He came to my office once. My secretary blocked him at the front desk. "I just want 5 minutes," he begged, loud enough for the other staff to hear. I stepped out, not to talk, but to look him in the eye. He was a shadow of himself. His beard overgrown, his shirt creased. His eyes didn't hold arrogance anymore. They held hunger. "I gave you the best years of my life," he muttered. "And I gave you mine," I replied. "But I used them to become something." He tried to touch my hand. I pulled it away. That was the last time I saw him. Freedom came with solitude, but also strength. I expanded my business and began mentoring other women, especially those trapped in the same silence I had once known. I told them, "You don't have to announce your pain. Just build your way out of it." At night, sometimes I sat alone in my new apartment, high above Nairobi, thinking about those village days. The girl with the firewood hands. The one who once thought love meant surrender. But now I know real love starts with choosing yourself. Months passed. By now, my story had become something of a whispered tale in Nairobi circles. The girl who was once slapped into silence, now giving TEDx talks. The woman once laughed at in court, now funding startups for rural girls. But one evening, as I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window in my apartment, watching the sun dip behind the skyline, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Something in me said answer. It was Victor's mother. Her voice was soft, and for the first time, not prideful. She told me Victor had been arrested, charged with fraud after trying to scam a woman he met online. He was awaiting sentencing. I said nothing at first. Not out of joy or malice, just stillness. I know he did you wrong, she said gently. But you were the only one he ever truly respected. Maybe you could talk to him, help him find his way back. I closed my eyes. The woman I used to be would have rushed to forgive. But healing had taught me that not all broken things need to be repaired. Some need to be released. I'm sorry, I replied. But I've already helped him by walking away. We ended the call quietly. That night, I opened a letter I'd been hiding in my drawer, a scholarship acceptance to a tech accelerator program in South Africa. Fully funded. 3 months. I had applied 6 months ago when my courage was still shaky. I smiled. Not because I had escaped Victor, but because I had outgrown him. There's something powerful about silence. Not the silence of fear, but of strength. Of building in the dark so you shine in your own light. Victor laughed when he signed the divorce papers because he thought my silence meant defeat. But the truth is, he never saw the fire I had been nursing beneath that silence. He saw a woman living empty. What he didn't know was that I had been filling myself drop by drop, till I overflowed. And maybe that's the lesson for every woman watching: you don't have to shout to reclaim your power. Sometimes, your best revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be.